What if I told you one of the greatest NFL players of all time also ran like your mailman? Yep, we're talking about Peyton Manning.
Widely regarded as the smartest quarterback to ever play the game.
The guy who won 5 MVPs and 2 Super Bowl rings without ever being known for his speed or athleticism. But let's be real, when you think of Peyton, you're not thinking track star. He clocked a 5.28 second 40-yard, one of the slowest times ever by an NFL quarterback. So, how did this guy outsmart every defense he faced?
Many players have a story as unique as Peyton Manning.
Simple. Manning wasn't playing football, he was playing chess. With his football IQ off the charts, Peyton was practically solving defenses in real time, calling plays at the line with that iconic, he didn't need to see where his receivers were going, he just knew. But to get the full picture, let's rewind to March 24th, 1976, the day Peyton Manning was born into football royalty. His dad, Archie Manning, wasn't just any quarterback. He was an early version of today's dual-threat QBs, a guy who could move like Lamar Jackson long before it was cool. Peyton's hero wasn't on TV, he was in the living room, right there in New Orleans. Peyton Manning didn't grow up like most kids. While others played with toys or rode bikes, Peyton, along with his brothers Cooper and Eli, were running full-on football games. Helmets, shoulder pads, the whole deal. And Peyton wasn't just tagging along. At 4 years old, he was already practicing 5-step drops like a pro. Yep, while most kids were learning to ride a bike, Peyton was out there calling audibles in the backyard. Peyton wasn't the natural athlete in the family. That was his older brother Cooper, who was faster, stronger, and never let Peyton forget it. Peyton was the chubby kid with a big head. And hey, if you're enjoying this breakdown and appreciate the hard work that goes into creating content like this, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It's the result of one person's dedication, and your support means everything. Let's grow this channel together. Cooper dominated their childhood battles, leaving Peyton constantly in his shadow. By the time Cooper was a star wide receiver at Newman High School, Peyton had earned the starting quarterback job as a sophomore. They became an unstoppable duo, lighting up defenses across the state. The Manning brothers going from sibling brawls to one of the best QB wide receiver combos in high school football. Just as the Manning family's dreams were taking off, they were shattered. But everything changed when he was diagnosed with spinal stenosis, a condition that could have left him paralyzed. In one moment, his football career was over, and he came dangerously close to losing his life. Peyton was devastated, but instead of crumbling, he found new purpose on the field. To honor his brother, he switched his jersey to number 18, the same number Cooper wore. That number would become legendary as Peyton emerged as one of the top quarterback recruits in the country, forever paying tribute to the brother who inspired him. When it came time to pick a college, Peyton's decision turned into national drama. His father, Archie, was a legend at Ole Miss, and everyone expected Peyton to follow suit. Ole Miss fans thought it was a done deal. But Peyton, he had other plans. He fell in love with Tennessee, their rival school, and the Volunteers program in Knoxville. Peyton arrived at Tennessee with one focus: football. Standing 6'4", Peyton looked more like a film nerd than a future NFL star. As a fourth-string freshman, no one expected to see him on the field. He was supposed to sit back, learn, and maybe watch some horror movies because soon enough, he'd be living a nightmare. In just the second game against UCLA, Tennessee's quarterback depth chart collapsed due to injuries. Suddenly, Peyton, this skinny freshman, was thrown into the fire. But by the third game, Peyton had earned the starting job. That's when the Manning legend officially took flight. Over the next 3 years, he didn't just get better, he became the top quarterback in the nation. Peyton's obsession with preparation and relentless work ethic set him apart from everyone else. He was so locked in that he made a decision almost unheard of. Peyton Manning's senior year was the perfect capstone to an already legendary college career. He became a Heisman finalist and left Tennessee fans in awe, throwing for 11,201 yards and 89 touchdowns, cementing his place as one of the SEC's all-time greats. Peyton was the obvious top prospect for the NFL draft. Enter Ryan Leaf. Leaf was college football's golden boy, big, athletic, with a rocket arm and swagger to match. The 1998 NFL draft quickly became one of the most hyped drafts in history, with endless debates over who should be the number 1 pick. Half the country was firmly on Team Peyton, praising his football IQ and leadership, while the other half was sold on Leaf's raw talent and power. Statistically, they were nearly identical. Leaf threw for 3,968 yards and 34 touchdowns in his final season at Washington State, leading his team to the Rose Bowl. He was flashy, athletic, and had a cannon for an arm. Meanwhile, Peyton, despite all his success, wasn't as physically imposing. He still looked like a kid who had barely hit puberty. The question was simple: or go with Peyton's unmatched football IQ and leadership. Despite Peyton's self-deprecating finding humor. The reality was that half the country believed the Colts should pass on him for Ryan Leaf. Was Peyton too safe, too traditional, compared to Leaf's raw power and potential? During his meetings with the Colts, Peyton didn't hold back. In his typical direct style, he warned them. That level of confidence, some might even call it savagery, ultimately sealed the deal, and the Colts took Manning as the #1 overall pick in the 1998 NFL Draft. Peyton Manning's transition to the NFL wasn't smooth. He thought he could turn the Colts around immediately, but instead, reality hit harder than any defensive lineman. Manning threw 28 interceptions, setting an NFL rookie record that still stands today. The Colts finished with a 3-13 record, and for a player with sky-high expectations, it was a humbling experience. But here's the thing, Manning didn't run from failure. He embraced it. That rough rookie year didn't break him, it fueled him. Peyton threw more picks than a guitar store, and his debut became known as one of the worst rookie campaigns in NFL history. But in reality, that year may have been the most important of his entire career. It was a turning point. Manning had to come to grips with the harsh realities of the NFL, learning the hard way that greatness isn't instant, and that's exactly what Peyton did. Instead of feeling sorry for himself, he embraced the struggle and transformed into an even bigger mental powerhouse. Realizing he was up against faster, stronger, and more complex NFL defenses, Peyton returned to what always worked. He planted himself in front of hours of game film, dissecting every play with an obsessive focus. That dedication became his superpower. Peyton was relentless, studying from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., sometimes 7 days a week in search of that extra edge. And slowly but surely, he found it. But who would have guessed that binge-watching film could lead to so much success? The Colts went from league laughingstock to a 13-3 powerhouse in just one season, the biggest single-season turnaround in NFL history. Peyton wasn't just proving he wasn't a bust. He was setting the league on fire. His dedication to film study and mastery of the mental game turned him into one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in the league. Peyton showed that you didn't need to be the fastest guy on the field if you could outsmart everyone else. But the story doesn't end there. While Peyton was a regular season superstar, the playoffs were a different story. A roller coaster ride with way too many loop-de-loops. It seemed like the Colts dominated in the regular season. Come playoff time, Peyton would falter under the pressure. Despite his success, he developed a reputation for struggling in the postseason. And then came the 2002 season. In one game, Peyton played so poorly that his coach, Tony Dungy, did something no one saw coming. Peyton was embarrassed, and he knew something had to change. He took matters into his own hands, and in doing so, he transformed the entire league. Peyton didn't just adapt to the NFL, he revolutionized it. He turned the league into an all-out air raid, bringing a level of complexity and precision to the passing game that no one had ever seen. Peyton didn't just play the game, he changed it. One of his most iconic moments came in 2003 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, when he orchestrated one of the greatest comebacks in NFL history. Down 21 points in the fourth quarter, Manning led the Colts to an improbable overtime victory. It was a defining moment, proving that no deficit was too large and cementing Peyton's reputation as the ultimate comeback artist. In 2004, Peyton took things to a whole new level, delivering his best season yet. He didn't just play great, he made history. Peyton shattered records, breaking one of the most iconic marks in NFL history, Dan Marino's single-season touchdown record, a milestone that had stood untouched for 20 years. Peyton wasn't just a great quarterback anymore, he was rewriting the record books. Peyton Manning had a love story with football, but one player kept breaking his heart, Tom Brady. Built just like Peyton, but maybe a little uglier, Brady wasn't just any opponent. This wasn't a battle of athleticism, it was a showdown of brains, pitting two of the smartest quarterbacks to ever play the game. The rivalry truly ignited in the 2003 AFC Championship game, when Brady and the Patriots brought an abrupt end to the Colts season. That game didn't just decide who went to the Super Bowl, it sparked the greatest quarterback rivalry in NFL history. And Brady didn't just beat Manning, he dominated, and then kept coming back for more in the seasons that followed. This wasn't just about stats, it was mental warfare. Two brilliant football minds, each obsessed with outwitting the other. For a while, it seemed like Brady had Peyton's number, as the Patriots knocked the Colts out of the playoffs again and again. The playoff losses were eating away at Peyton, but the guy who was really fed up wasn't even a star player, it was the kicker. In 2003, Colts kicker Mike Vanderjagt did the unthinkable. He went on live TV and trashed Peyton and the team, questioning Peyton's leadership and intensity. It was bold, it was shocking, and it officially lit the fuse. Up until then, then, Peyton had always been known for his squeaky clean, polite Southern image, always saying the right things. But Vanderjagt's comments, they stung. This was no random player talking. This was the guy responsible for kicking game-winning field goals, and Peyton wasn't about to let it slide. You talk about trust and confidence. Your own teammate, Mike Vanderjagt, questioned your passion, your leadership, and even Tony Dungy's ability to win. That moment was a turning point. For the first time, Peyton's clean-cut reputation took a hit, and things were about to get heated. Peyton and Vanderjagt had to keep it professional. After all, Peyton was still Peyton, and Vanderjagt had become one of the most accurate kickers in NFL history. By the 2005 playoffs, Peyton was in his 8th season, and still without a Super Bowl ring. The stakes had never been higher. To make matters worse, his younger brother, Eli Manning, had just entered the NFL. Now he was gunning for the same glory Peyton had been chasing for years. Eli wanted everything Peyton had: his success, his spotlight, and eventually, his ring. Peyton did what big brothers do in the first Manning Bowl. He came out on top, reminding Eli who ruled the family rivalry. But there was still one obstacle Peyton hadn't conquered: Tom Brady. To finally win it all, Peyton had to face his nemesis once again. The nerves were real, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. This was supposed to be the year, the season Peyton finally broke through and got his ring. But the Patriots, they didn't care about the Colts storyline. Once again, Peyton Manning found himself in familiar territory, dominating in the regular season, only to be down big against Tom Brady in the playoffs. Peyton wasn't going to let it happen again. He had to carry the entire Colts team on his back. The comeback started with one crucial play. Manning rolls out, eyes downfield, and spots a wide-open Dan Klecko. He fires. Touchdown. The Colts cut into the lead. Then, after a key running play, Joseph Adai walks into the end zone. The game had flipped. The Colts were storming back, and the impossible was happening right before everyone's eyes. Peyton was on the verge of an iconic moment. The Colts didn't just claw back. They punched their ticket to the Super Bowl with a dramatic 38-34 win. After 9 painful years of playoff heartbreak, Peyton Manning had done it. He was finally headed to his first Super Bowl, but the job wasn't finished. Peyton wasn't just chasing a trip to the big game. He wanted that ring. Super Bowl 41 loomed, and standing in his way were the Chicago Bears. But even after reaching the grandest stage, the critics were out in full force. They kept reminding everyone that Peyton had never won the big one. Not in high school, not in college, and not in the NFL. And when the opening kickoff of Super Bowl 41 was returned for a touchdown by Devin Hester, Peyton was out here laying down the law, earning his nickname, the Sheriff, by taking control of the field. But if anyone was going to rebel, it was his little brother, Eli. And Eli was about to steal everything Peyton had worked for, going after not just Peyton's nemesis, Tom Brady, but also the Lombardi Trophy. Eli transformed the New York Giants into a force, and when he faced Brady and the Patriots in Super Bowl 42, he was determined to pull off the impossible. In one of the greatest upsets in NFL history, Eli led the Giants to victory, ending the Patriots' perfect season. Peyton was built for moments like this. He responded with a bomb to Marvin Harrison. With 59 seconds left, the Giants needed a touchdown, and all Peyton could do was watch as his little brother, Eli, led a game-winning drive. Peyton had been to the Super Bowl and lost before, but now it was Eli's turn to take the spotlight. Afterward, Peyton went back to his roots, the film room, analyzing every detail like only he could. His hard work paid off, leading the Colts right back to the Super Bowl the very next season. Peyton was exactly where he wanted to be. On a fourth-quarter drive to win his second title, Peyton made the worst mistake of his career. Peyton wanted more diamonds for his fingers. He'd have to face pressure far greater than anything he'd experienced in the pocket. As it turned out, Eli wasn't the biggest obstacle in his path. The real challenge came the next season, during what seemed like just a routine play. In an instant, Peyton's career and life would change forever. The injury was devastating. It didn't just sideline Peyton for the first game of the next season. It forced him to miss the entire 2011 season. At 34 years old, Peyton's playing days looked grim, and the thought of retirement loomed large. To make things worse, he had to watch from the sidelines as some of his records were broken, one by one. But one record in particular stung the most. Eli Manning would go on to start 210 consecutive games, becoming the NFL's Iron Man. Meanwhile, Peyton had to face a harsh reality. The Colts were starting to see him less as their franchise QB and more like a football film critic stuck on the couch. Things got even tougher when the team secured the #1 pick in the 2012 NFL Draft. A rising star named Andrew Luck, a quarterback many believed would become the future face of the league. It felt like a repeat of the 1998 draft when Peyton was pitted against Ryan Leaf in one of the biggest sports debates ever. And just like then, this decision sent shockwaves through the NFL. Leaving the team he led for 15 years left Peyton in tears. But this wasn't the end. His next chapter would take him miles high, both emotionally and on the field. Peyton signed with the Denver Broncos for 5 years and a whopping $98 million. A fresh start and a bank full of money can heal a lot of wounds. And boy, did he make the Colts pay. In the 2013 season, Peyton earned his 5th MVP, more than any player in NFL history. His numbers were legendary, breaking his own record with 55 touchdown passes and setting a new standard for passing yards in a season, with 5,477 yards. It was the greatest statistical season ever by a quarterback. That historic run led the Broncos to Super Bowl 48, where Peyton set a Super Bowl record with 34 completions. But despite his incredible numbers, the Broncos were crushed, leaving Peyton heartbroken once again. After all that, he was left wondering, what more can I do? But Peyton wasn't finished. He saddled up with the Broncos for one last ride. The 2015 season felt like his final shot. Like that kid in the backyard practicing his 5-step drops, Peyton knew he had to make every moment count. There was still one milestone to chase: Brett Favre's all-time passing yards record. And in typical Peyton fashion, he did the unthinkable. He surpassed the legendary mark. With that completion, Peyton Manning became the NFL's all-time leader in career passing yards, a milestone that cemented his place in football history. But it wasn't all rainbows and sunshine after that. Manning injured his foot, and suddenly the legendary quarterback looked like a struggling rookie. His body was giving out on him, and the Broncos, once at the top of the power rankings, were now fighting just to make the playoffs. To make matters worse, Brock Osweiler had taken over under center, and it looked like the Broncos' Super Bowl hopes were slipping away. But just when things seemed bleak, the sheriff came back to town. With one bad foot and determination to spare, Manning was set on leading the Broncos to another Super Bowl. And of course, no Peyton Manning story would be complete without one last showdown with Tom Brady. In the 2015 AFC Championship game, their final clash, Manning and Brady went to war. Peyton had the Patriots on the ropes, but Brady being Brady wasn't done yet. With time running out, Brady led a desperate comeback, scoring a touchdown when all hope seemed lost. Peyton had seen this movie before, breaking every record in the book, but always falling short to Brady in big moments. But this time was different. After years of battling Brady, Peyton got the weight off his back. He had beaten his greatest rival and checked off a critical box: victory over Brady in a crucial playoff game. But Peyton wasn't satisfied. He wanted more, a second Super Bowl title. The only problem? He was practically a walking mummy, barely holding it together. And the Carolina Panthers, led by a red-hot Cam Newton, weren't about to let Peyton ride off into the sunset without a fight. Ask yourself, would you take a ragdoll built like Woody or a fast-running, bulldozing quarterback? Because Cam Newton was exactly that. Superman in cleats, the reigning NFL MVP. Super Bowl 50 was the ultimate showdown between old-school Peyton Manning and new-school Cam Newton. But Peyton wasn't relying on his arm anymore. His body couldn't keep up. Instead, he used every ounce of football genius in his big dome to outsmart the Panthers. He could barely throw, but that didn't stop him. Peyton controlled the game like he had a TV remote, orchestrating every play to perfection. In his final game, Peyton leaned on those countless hours spent in the film room, outsmarting the Panthers to raise the Lombardi Trophy one last time. He shocked the world, going out in a blaze of glory, leaving everything on the field. After 71,940 passing yards, 539 touchdowns, and that elusive second championship, Peyton Manning had cemented his legacy. He proved to the world that even an average-looking guy with a sharp mind and relentless drive could win titles, just like him. Before you go, remember that this content is the hard work of one person who is passionate about bringing you the best insights. If you found it valuable, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. It truly helps and motivates me to keep going. Thanks for being a part of this journey.